Okay. Okay. This is a video from a channel called Lem's Crazy Random Facts. This video is of a nurse, and it's about her feelings and how she deals with them at work regarding patients and how she treats one patient compared to another patient. And if you listen closely, really, it sounds like she's not the only one on this page. She's not the only bird in this group. You know, birds of a feather flock together. So, before playing his video with the nurse on it, I would like to say, my family's had lots of friends in medicine and outside of medicine. I'm not into bashing anyone. I know that's a really hard job. And we absolutely love and care about lots of people that have been in medicine and are in medicine. And we care about that profession as well. But we've also had issues in medicine, mainstream medicine. That's the only kind of medicine we've been involved in. And that's why this video really caught my attention, is because no matter how much you love people that might work in a profession, you still can have some issues. And so that's why I'm having a little bit of a moment where I share my opinion. So I'm going to play his video. It's like under 8 minutes, like 5, 6, maybe. I'm not quite sure on the count. And afterwards, say why and what in the video should catch everybody's attention, yours too, in case you ever have an issue. There are things to know. And this video kind of shows that a little bit. So I'll talk about that in just a minute after I play his video for you.
Still at a hospital. It could be an office. I don't know. But for the record, she is still on the premises.
Somebody's not going to be supporting these guys. Where's the hotel where they eat? Who makes that breakfast? Let's find them.
Here we go again. Poison them. Here we go.
You know, let's make their lives miserable. I know we're already trying to keep them awake all night. That's good. Anything you can do to make the living conditions bad. Talk to the people who work at the places where
Oh my goodness.
where they are. Look at some ideas. Dead fish. Somewhere in the room hidden. Just stay toxic.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Nurse Rachet. Wow. I don't know what to say about this because it's getting scary. Like, I remember back in the day when there was a show called MASH, and they had a great example of, they were always at war, and even if someone crossed the enemy line and they were doctors, they had an oath. They always said that they were to help anyone who was in pain or had severe problems that needed surgery. They didn't matter what color they were. They didn't care what their cause was. They helped them. Real quick, am I the only one that had a crush on Hot Lips? I remember that's my first white crush love. I didn't tell my grandma then though, but I was in love with Hot Lips. Yep. She was the first white woman I ever loved so much. Today, in our day in society, it's like these people have lost their mind. They have gone bonkers. Well, guess what? This is some information that was shared of her license. Everybody, the internet don't play around. They found her, but wait, before you start calling this company, I got some good news for you. I want you to read this first with me, all right? So let's read this, and it says, we prioritize the health and safety of anyone who comes to us for care. We are aware of a series of videos that appear to have been posted by an individual confirmed to be an employer of our health system. Nurse Rachet. The content of the videos is highly inappropriate and does not reflect the integrity and values of our health system. VCU police are assisting with this investigation. Yep. Per policy, while the investigation is underway, the individual is on administrative leave and will not be in our facility or interaction with patients. VCU Health. That should be a commercial. Hey, look here. She fired. And she gets everything that's coming her way. I mean, you're a health person. You are a nurse. Some of these nurses take an oath. I understand she's just a CRNA or something like that.
One of the things I want to point out is, you see the 2 yellow notices that he had up there in his video? Who were the police that took care of the situation? Notice, it was VCU Health. It was also VCU Police. If you ever have a serious enough problem with medical staff at any hospital or place, that you feel that you need to call the police, you're not allowed to just pick and choose wherever you go to the police to file that report at. You have to go to your most local police. For example, when I was at University of Michigan Hospital with and for my son, who has since passed away, I had a problem so bad with medical staff. There was some confusion there. And it was so bad that I had to contact the police. And when I went to go to what I thought was a local police, which is upsetting enough because the local police always work with the local medical workers. They work together all the time. And I'm not saying that one is bad or the other is bad, or that they would ever intentionally be corrupt or be buddies and covering each other's buns when one of them does wrong. No, I'm not saying that. I wouldn't go around just randomly saying that. I'm just saying that the way the system is, and I don't know much about those things because I generally haven't had those problems very often. But the way the system is you have to go to your local police. That's all I'm saying. I don't like that because I happen to know they all work together quite often. Also, it wasn't just like I couldn't just, when I had a problem at University of Michigan Hospital, that's in Ann Arbor, right? Ann Arbor's local police are Washtenaw Police. So I tried to go to Washtenaw Police. No, that wasn't local enough. The Washtenaw Police sent me to the University of Michigan's police. So I'm having a problem with the University of Michigan, their hospital, and I have to go to their police to report the problem they are causing. I don't like that. So I just want to point that out. For my personal story, the reason there wasn't a police report made locally is because I was always too busy running to, like an ambulance. You have to run the patient to the next hospital when this hospital has endangered his life. And that's exactly what I would have to do. And that happened quite often, actually, because he had a predator in the hospital that was after him. In this particular hospital. That sounds kind of crazy, but we don't screen those things out of medicine. That's the next thing I want to talk about. So anyway, I happen to really like the local police here in this small town. And I thought about reporting it later when I wasn't on like a paramedics type of emergency medical run to save Brian's life. But then I decided against going that route. First off, they need to have some medical skills. Police officers here are wonderful, but I don't expect them to be doctors to examine the things that I'm saying, or the medical records that I bring. So I think that it would be a different venue. However, also, I wouldn't want my heart broken if I brought the evidence and let them know, that they have someone that has probably a diagnosis that means they're going to repeat this behavior with other people that are mutes. You need to be aware of that. Now, if I made the local police aware of that, and see, for me, because I had a crime happen and the local police did help me a little bit, whether they did right or wrong or good or whatever, it saved my life. It saved my children's life. Okay. And so like from an emotional aspect, I can't risk anything. I can't, trauma-wise, I can't do it. I would better off going to a medical malpractice attorney and doing a different venue. And just because if anything went awry in that investigation, it would just be too much for me emotionally, because I do like the local police. So with that being said, at the time I didn't report it to them because I was busy running to the next hospital to save his life. At any rate, with my child and my situation, it's really clear in the medical records, really clear that he was medically murdered and mismanaged. I mean, God really put that nail in that coffin, boy. He proved it. Had to be a ding-a-ling. And not to live in reality, right? You have to be trying to murder disabled people. Anyway, that's a different story. That's the thing I want to point out, okay? That's the big deal, is that I think everything that walks should take note of. If you have a problem at the University of Michigan and you go to call the police, it's going to be the University of Michigan's police that show up. Okay, so that is just a fact of life that I want to share with anybody that's interested, okay? Or you're making a report to the medical board, sometimes you would need that police report to go along with it, just so you know. So one last note for my fellow, just random sort of fact for friends out there that have been having a hard time with any medical staff in mainstream medicine. A lot of times what that would accompany that police report is your report to the medical board if that's what you were doing. Now, that being said, unfortunately, currently, most recently, as most of you know, because the good doctors are on the outside of allopathic medicine, mainstream buildings, they either have their own practices or they're on the outside or switching to natural medicine right now. If you haven't noticed, the multitudes of really smart people leaving mainstream medicine and what is left behind, you should notice that. At any rate, the medical board is also crooked most recently, just like the American Academy of Pediatrics is super crooked. Somebody's got to be getting money in there for the vaccines, just like our senators. They get all this lobbying money from big pharma. The corruption as far as our medicine goes is so major. But I just don't want anyone in Michigan to be wasting their time with the medical board right now. They are a waste of time. My daughter, when she was 14 still, made a report to the medical board about this nurse that was not at Sparrow Hospital able to recognize non-convulsive status epilepticus. She was watching her brother. We thought he was going to die. And they were so busy with their covering up from up here. It's not every hospital is covering up. It's just that they took the words. It's like if you took the words of Dr. Fauci. Well, you might be a criminal. If you listen to a criminal, then you're a criminal. That's how that works. If you take your medical advice from a criminal, then you're a criminal. Okay? If you line up with the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Lord's wrath for you is just profound. I'll tell you what. But to my friends who are fighting in this medical freedom movement right now, just know that if you don't already know, and I think most people do know, because the medical boards have been going after the good doctors most recently, they're crap. Garbage. They don't even listen to 14-year-old little girls tell the truth. I mean, when the hell does a 14-year-old little girl ever lie about non-convulsive status epilepticus? Have you lost your mind? Corrupt as can be. Not worth it. Try a different avenue. So I wanted to point all that out. One thing I wanted to say was I like that Lim guy. Don't know him. Like his video. But I don't agree that she's getting everything that's coming to her. I don't think so. I don't think the local police that she's used to working with are going to give her everything that's coming to her. I don't think so. At most, she might have been quietly dismissed. Kindly, probably. At most. So that's my guess. I could be wrong. At any rate, leads me to the other thing that I want to talk about regarding it. We in America, I would think all across America, we do not screen certain disorders. I don't consider them to be lifelong excuses. Now, that being said, this is a touchy thing I'm about to say, okay? I have a debt of gratitude to many people that are cluster Bs. That's just one disorder. I don't consider it to be a lifelong disorder because I know Jesus, okay? That being said, the fact is we do not screen psychoses out of really important and dangerous places for others. We don't even screen Munchausen out. Okay? Munchausen is pretty serious. Now, there is one thing that some pastors have pointed out at the beginning of COVID, and that was what kind of personality and what kind of character kept working when Hitler was in charge. You should compare that to what kind of personality, what kind of character is fine with everything that went on with the protocol regarding COVID with remdesivir. What kind of character is okay with that? What kind of character is okay with 72 shots for babies between age 0 and 3 and finds nothing in there to be concerned about of a financial nature? What kind of character does that take? Because when the medical boards are corrupt, when the American Academy of Pediatrics is vying for 70 something vaccines as opposed to 50 something, or the way other countries take care of their people, which is far superior, obviously, than what's been happening here in regards to babies and pediatricians. So what kind of character is still in the mainstream medical system when Hitler's in charge? What kind of character is still in the mainstream medicine now? There are lots of people who will quit when things get tough, okay? But things aren't tough for bad people right now. Just like the pastors told us would happen has happened. The good ones have left the building. They've spent all kinds of money. They've marched at Washington, whether you had that news censored from you or you saw it. I'm reiterating it for you here now, because I have some police officer friends that have asked me that they care so much about children that they have asked me, they're willing to be awake if Brian was injured by vaccines. Yes, he was. That's what happened to Brian. It's also what happened to, I have more than one child that's happened to. It's just that it's a less degree with my other children because they did not get as many vaccines as Brian got. Brian got everything. Anyway, I followed everything the doctor said with Brian. He was my eldest. And so he got every vaccine. Then he also got it when they were claiming, but I don't think we can put much trust in anything they've ever claimed. Before they were claiming to have taken the mercury out, the first time they claimed that they were going to take the mercury out, they really didn't do that. So I'm just saying he got everything. So I want to reiterate that because I want to take you to a spot in this video, especially to any law enforcement friends. If you're working for ICE or the police, I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not big on the immigration discussion, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't poison people that I'm mad at, okay? Because I don't have a psychosis. Also, I have a God that he expects me to act a certain way, even when I'm mad. I bet you other moms can relate to this. You're cooking the meals, and you have a terrible day. And maybe you feel like you just want it. But do you go around poisoning people? No. Because you're not psychotic. You don't have Munchausen. You control yourself. And just like Lem was saying about on MASH, how they will still treat people. They're not going to harm you because you're the enemy. It's a different, you know what I mean? And that safety should be there in a hospital. Okay. I can tell you in my family that safety is there. I've never had, just a really bad thing happen and then turned around and said, I'm going to get you. No. I would so not be saved if I did that kind of stuff. Normally, you do that kind of thing, you should be in jail. Okay. You do need to know how to control yourself, but you also need to realize that there's a whole lot of people that they're not saved. And so they don't have, that's the other key. They don't have that fruit of the Holy Spirit, which is self-control. Unsaved people do not have that. It is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. It is not a fruit of anything else. So we can go around tricking ourselves from here until the end of time if we want to, but you're going to lack a little bit of that self-control if you are not saved. And in certain psychoses, like cluster B, they can even be someone that goes to church and is really, trying to walk out their salvation with Jesus and still have a tendency to retaliate or to try to vindicate themselves, to avenge themselves, to get you, or to just plain sabotage you to make themselves look better, sabotage you. You know what I mean? You don't have to have done something wrong. I have a lot of experience with cluster B, a lot. Okay. And narcissism. I've been trying to raise 3 children, disabled, by myself as a widow, with nothing but that kind of help for years. That was part of the problem when Jesus drew the abuse line and said, if this happens again, there's going to be people dying. It's a little abuse line. I know religious people like to call it the hoe line. I'm going to tell you what it really is according to Jesus. And if it was ever a hoe line, you're talking about the men are the hoes. Okay, they're the hoe makers. This is the abuse line that Jesus drew. And he said, if so-and-so goes over it again, if so-and-so backslides with alcohol again, he's gonna die. Take a lot of pictures. So, a lot of widows, it's kind of a thing. Bible talks about it. Have experience with certain personalities. Okay? A lot of us. It's kind of a spiritual thing. So, I can recognize different personalities from a mile away quite often because of it. But they still hire them, fully employed. You know, people that will create a patsy to create their career. Now, so that's really key, is to understand that there are certain characters, there's certain psychoses, there's certain conditions that it's really common for them to just plain sabotage you, sabotage people. Yes, even sabotage patients. And it doesn't have to make sense to you for it to happen to you. You don't have to have done anything wrong. You could just be a tool. You know, quite often kids with severe autism are tools. They have better promote someone's career, or else you're going to find yourself in that position quite often if you have a kid with severe autism. Okay, it's just a fact. I can go over that a million times over in some other videos. Not really for now. What I want to point at right now is I want to go to the middle of this video and show you that either it was a fake boast of hers to get the ball rolling, get other people joining her, and she just wants other people to be doing these things to ICE patients. I mean, are there even any ICE officers in a hospital anyway? I mean, really? You know, they're not allowed to protect themselves like that? Anyway, I don't know if she's saying that she's been doing this with others already. That's what, if you really listen to her around 4 minutes, that's what it sounds like. She's definitely intimating that. Okay. So it was our experience dealing with the culture as it is most recently, with all of the ideological subversion going on in the public schools, coming down from the colleges, if you're awake and you've been paying attention. And you haven't had that, news censored away, or you haven't been in some echo chamber where you don't hear the truth. Either way, it's still happening. It's been happening. And with that kind of culture, we have definitely, my whole entire family, my kids, posterity, the future, okay, have been watching times of me being abused because I worshiped in the hospital. Literally, okay? Me worshiping God makes them think I'm like into politics, or I like Trump, or I'm MAGA, or whatever they want to label you as. Me having morality or ethics. And quite frankly, when Brian was alive, before they unalived him, I, had so many responsibilities thanks to the U of M disabling Brian, and me being the eternal slave to that, and as well as Brian, that I had to, that was a part of my whole life of being saved. I prayed from one moment to the next, worship from one moment to the next, of trying to survive all of this. And then all of this, which has been going on in mainstream medicine, where it's so deceptive. Like that scripture, even the elect would be deceived. Possible. Many of us have been. That's how our kids developed autism, of course. Okay, so let's go to the center of the video. And I want just to re-show that really briefly, because you might gloss over it. So she's just mad and she's talking smack or whatever. And that could be. It could be. But it could also be, and I want you to realize that she could very well mean what she says. Meaning that she could have had patients before that she didn't like their ideology. Maybe she thought they were part of a cult, or maybe she didn't like how they dressed, or maybe she didn't, whatever group they're in, she doesn't like, or maybe she doesn't like their race. Maybe she doesn't like whatever it is that causes her to discriminate against one patient. She's willing to discriminate against the ICE patient and be okay with the other. You need to realize that there is a whole lot of people that work in medicine that will not just say those things. They're not just saying stuff to be scary or mean or to get someone. They will do those things. And whatever they've said that they're willing to do, and they're trying to get others to do that they're willing to say publicly, how much darker is what they actually do is. Okay, because people don't generally tell their biggest skeleton to you. Okay, if they're going to tell on themselves, and usually they don't, they usually find a patsy, then they're not going to tell you the worst thing that they've been doing. That's the thing, is if she's talking like this, I think it means she's been doing things to patients already. And heck no, she's not getting what she deserves and all of it on this side of heaven. No, not with the corruption and the utter disrespect that is in America for commandment number 5. It's as if we have built everybody's career on the backs of moms and dads. It really is. We have a problem with that in America, according to God. And God will judge it.
It's not going to be supporting these guys. Where's the hotel where they eat? Who makes that breakfast? Let's find them.
Here we go again. Poison them. Here we go.
You know, let's make their lives miserable.
Okay, so she's making her plan. And then here, what she's about to say is, I know we are already keeping them awake all the time. Now, that's just something that, happens in hospitals. Maybe she's just talking smack. Maybe she doesn't have a bunch of other nurses somewhere keeping a bunch of ICE patients awake. So is that a lie? Or is that the truth? Are they premeditatedly keeping people awake, like more than happens in a hospital usually?
I know we're already trying to keep them awake all night. That's good. Anything you can do to make the living conditions bad. Talk to the people who work at the places where
Oh my goodness.
where they are. We'll get some ideas. Dead fish. Somewhere in the room hidden. Just stay toxic.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Nurse Rachet. Wow. I don't know what to say about this because it's getting scary. Like, I remember back in the day when you're
Mittens. 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 Stop it. I like this slim guy. I don't know him personally. Thank you. That's much nicer. Don't know him personally. Just getting scary out there. The pastors, many years ago now, when COVID just began, like at its beginning, stop it! I'm so sorry. I have to be a little loud sometimes with them. They told us it was going to get scary. They sure were right, weren't they? They told us, according to how they, nurses, doctors responded to the whole, that it would get scary. 5 years ago. 6 years ago. It's been scary. I've been treated like crap. My whole family. My son was treated like crap at the hospital. Oh, yes, our living conditions were made a complete hell because I had a smear campaign on me. And Dr. Jonathan Altieri in Helen Joy Newberry Hospital in the UP of Michigan, put a bunch of lies out there about me, as well as lies about my son's medical condition. These weren't just misdiagnoses that were harmless. They caused a lot of harm to Brian. It made him quite the dollar bill, made him worth a lot of money insurance-wise. Very attractive. A lot of people wanted him. They were all trying to get him. But it made us a target. We were quite abused. at every hospital we went to. There were people that were believing the misdiagnoses, and not everywhere all the time they weren't believing, because it's kind of ridiculous. But and not everyone is crooked. Eventually the truth comes out eventually for everybody, right? And at the end of all that, the people that are still standing with the lie are crooked. But Eddie, I'm just saying, we've been there. We've been made very uncomfortable in the hospital. My son was unalived in the hospital by medical people. And that's not easy to say, because, like I said before, there's a lot of medical people that we have cared about. They're not all the same. Not everybody's the same, but it's an issue that happened. It's a real issue. Have all the records, prove it quite well, very easily. In fact, that is pretty much the only abuse my kids have ever known, is what they experienced, being slandered and falsely accused, and all the feelings you get when you have to be interviewed by CPS. I had a couple of CPS agents who were actually claiming they're locals. They were actually claiming they were wanting to kind of protect us. And that's kind of, so I'm not trying to slam dunk everybody. It could be possible they were good gals from the beginning to the end. That could be very possible. They are local. They generally are good gals. So not everybody, still, all of it. They took phone calls from predators, and we had a few predators. Brian's condition was created at the University of Michigan Hospital. The first and the second condition, the one that disabled him for life and the one that unalived him, both from the U of M. So from the folks that don't want to fix what Dr. Man over there broke and they can't figure out, to the ones that want to cover up and get you out our hospital. Oh, I'll go through every single, with all the records, episode. And our story isn't uncommon at all right now, actually. All of the vaccine injured patients, and there's so many of them, have been treated so badly for so long now. Long enough that, it's not just the silent, awake autism moms in the corner anymore. Not anymore. Well, I apologize for carrying on a whole lot longer than I ever intended to. I try to keep it short, but it might well just be a half-hour video. I don't, and I've been canceled every which way but Sunday, so I don't even know if anyone will see it. I've lost a lot of accounts because of my son's condition. Because of my son's condition, before anybody was injured with the COVID jab, because of his condition of catatonia. Someone came on Facebook and told me, if you keep talking like this was way early in the start. So something about my son's condition, they didn't want me talking to y'all who was about to take the COVID jab. I don't know why. It's really weird. Something about my son's condition, they didn't want me to talk, which is a totally different condition. They didn't want me to talk way back in 2019. So who knows if anybody will ever hear this, but at least I'm saying the truth. I hope you have a blessed day. And I hope you love the truth like I love the truth, because then we might be family in heaven. Take care. In Jesus' name.